Welcome, friends, to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. Guys and girls, you know the drill. I'm a retired New York City police detective, and if you like all things true crime related from that police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon when I go live or upload another video. Hey, today I want to give you my reaction to the University of Idaho Students 48-hour special. It aired last night on CBS Channel 2 here in the Northeast. It was also streaming on Paramount TV. By a show of hands in the chat, before I get into the hellos and thank yous, how many of you saw the video last night, 48 hours? It was an hour long, a lot of commercials, but it was an hour long of information. Put a 1 in the chat if you watched it. Put a 2 if you haven't yet seen it. We're going to go over it. I'm going to give you my reaction to what I saw, and we'll get into it in a few minutes. All right. So I see a lot of number 1s, and I do see a bunch of number 2s. Now, I have to assume that the number 2s have been the folks who maybe might be outside of the country, and it may be difficult to see it because you have to pay money to see it on Paramount TV, I believe it is. A lot of people haven't had a chance to see it if you're living outside the country. For us, it was free to watch on CBS Channel 2. And I watched not only that special, but I also watched the Gilgo Beach murders. They had a special on Rex Heuermann. So that was at 9 o'clock on Saturday night. And then 10 o'clock was the University of Idaho. Now, again, I'd be remiss by not saying this is about the victims: Zana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez. These are the true victims that we should be putting at the forefront whenever we speak about this case, and when we talk about it. It's about the victims and their surviving families. The families of these 4 young college students are left behind without their loved ones. So I have to put them, again, first and foremost, because this is what this case and all of the cases involving any heinous crimes, these involve murders, heinous stabbings, murders. It's important that you put their families at the forefront and put the victims obviously first. Special thank you to the moderators, the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all the folks who replay watching all of our videos. Ed Wallace and I put a lot of time, effort, and work into these videos that we bring to you. So we want to give thanks and praise to each and every one of you for joining. Now, also by a show of hands, how many of you have been following this closely? I saw somebody earlier in the chat before we went live, and I saw somebody say that I've been following this from the beginning. So I'm trying to scroll back to see who that was, but there was one person that said, like, I can't wait to hear this because I've been following this from the beginning. And I know most of us have been following this case very closely, and it's definitely something that tugs at our heartstrings because we have a suspect in custody, innocent until proven guilty, Bryan Kohberger. He was a Pullman, Washington, University of Washington State University PhD student, and he's in custody awaiting a trial, and we don't even have a trial date now. The trial date has been pushed off indefinitely. We're supposed to start, as you guys know, October 2nd, but so many things are happening. His defense team, which is led by Ann Taylor and several others, but it's led by Ann Taylor. They're doing their job. They're fighting and requiring the state. The burden of proof is on the state, is with the district attorney's office in Latah County. So they're providing a great and excellent defense for Bryan Kohberger. It's got a lot of us pissed off. It's got a lot of us happy that the system is working. I, for one, am happy that the system is working, and that the tough questions are being asked, and hopefully resolutions will come before this trial commences. And that's all I want to see, is a fair trial for this defendant, Bryan Kohberger. So let's take a listen. Let's take a peek at this is the teaser. Of course, I can't play the whole 48-hour episode here because it's copyrighted, but I want to play the teaser so you guys can get it. Hey, Pat in New York, good to see you. Joey Brooklyn did a great job earlier live streaming. Thank you, Joey, for being always out there and giving us great stuff, giving us great content. So thank you, Joey Brooklyn. Saying hello to everybody. Black Widower is here. Thank you, Black. Miss Donna Marie, Robbie from Australia, Dawn Marie, Beamer 650. And with Beamer 650 comes the rest of the family. So hello to all the rest of the great family members from Beamer 650. Nikki Bella, great to see you, girl. Friday, Agati, love and respect. Thank you. Thank you. Lexi, Unsolved Crimes Uncovered. Great to see you. You always have great insight. I'd love to have you come up with me one day and talk about this case. I know that you following it closely, but I'd be honored to have you come on with me and Ed or at any time to discuss this case and any other cases. So saying hello and highlighting everybody, let's get right to it. Here's your preview. It's about 6 minutes long, 5 minutes long, CBS News, and this is on University of Idaho Students 48-hour special. This is just a little bit of a tidbit.
This week, 48 Hours explores details of the night of the Idaho student murders. Correspondent Peter Van Sant spoke with two of the victims' families, one speaking out for the very first time and one providing new details about their daughter's fight for her life.
It's been a long and painful journey for the families of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, the four University of Idaho students who were stabbed to death in the pre-dawn hours of November 13th, 2022. Do you ever dream of your sister?
Yeah, I've had some dreams of her. Just gives me some peace knowing that I know she's okay.
Xana Kernodle's sister Jasmine and father Jeffrey are speaking out for the first time since Xana's murder.
It just happened, What do? You can't do a damn thing.
Everybody's going to work and you look out the window and there's kids running down the street laughing and you're just like, how can you be out there playing? My daughter's dead.
On the night of the murders, Christy and Steve Gonzalez's daughter Kaylee was in the same bed as her childhood friend, Maddie Mogan. The Gonzalez's say coroner Kathy Mabbitt told them before a gag order, the killer attacked Maddie first, then moved on to Kaylee.
There's evidence to show that she awakened and tried to get out of that situation.
They say she cried out, and her wounds show she fought for her life.
The way the bed was set up is what...
She was trapped.
She was trapped.
Xana also fought back. According to her father, she had severe defensive wounds.
She went down fighting.
I believe so. It's upsetting to think about.
She was always a very strong person.
A judge has entered a plea of not guilty on Bryan Kohberger's behalf, but he is not the person the families want us to remember.
He's not important other than what he did and being held accountable. I'll be here to keep reminding people who these victims are.
So Peter is joining us now, and you mentioned it in this piece, but a reminder to everyone that there's a gag order in place. This case got a lot of attention initially. We haven't seen it in the media that much because really, people can't talk. Authorities can't talk, but the families can.
Right, the families can, and what the Gonzalez family, who lost their daughter Kaylee, what they do is they share with us facts from their own investigation. They hired their own investigator, but also facts that the coroner and a lead investigator in the case gave them before the gag order was in place. So we have some new information in the course of this show that is fascinating.
I know you don't want to talk about everything you learned, but what's something that sort of jumped out at you?
The big thing is that based on all that they have learned, the Gonzalez family is convinced that Bryan Kohberger, the suspect in these four killings, entered that house on King Road in Moscow, Idaho, on a day prior to the murders. Why did they think that? Because the coroner told them that they believed that the two girls on the third floor were the first ones attacked and killed. How did he know to go to the third floor? And they also have, the family believes they have found a connection through an Instagram account that they downloaded at the time when Kohberger's name first came out. And based on their investigation, there's a lot of controversy about this because we haven't been able to get verification from any authority on this. But they believe that there is a link that Bryan Kohberger had liked some pictures of Maddie Mogan, the girl who was in the bed with Kaylee, best friends. They'd been sleeping together since they were little girls. And that creates a link. The defense has said there is no link, but the Gonzalez family believes they found one.
It would explain a lot of the questions that people had about, where did he come from? Because it really did seem like there's no way they could possibly sort of cross paths. You do have some good news, though. For the
Yes,
family.
there is some good news for the family. Olivia, who is Kaylee's older sister, recently gave birth to a new baby girl in Los Angeles named Theodora Maddie Kay. The Maddie Kay is for the two best friends who were murdered that day. And the family looks at the circumstances of this birth as a sign. Olivia looked out, and she lives in West LA, and she saw a rainbow for the first time while she was in labor. The room she was in was 1113. That's the date of the murder. And the time that the baby was born was 4:21 a.m. And authorities believe that's when the murders were occurring.
Whoa.
And so they think, the family believes, this is a sign from the two girls saying, we're okay.
Whoa, you're giving me chills, Peter. That's incredible. I was lucky enough to get a little bit of a sneak peek this episode. It's really good, really
So
moving.
powerful.
The families are amazing. Peter Van Sant, thank you.
So yeah, the episode was riveting. There was a lot of information in it, but this part that they just described here, with Kaylee's sister Olivia giving birth to Theodora Maddie Kay at 4:21 a.m. Just amazing, these signs that you get. I want to talk to you guys quickly about, the family of Kaylee Gonzalez. Steve, her dad, has been very vocal. Her sister early on, Olivia, you hear her in this 48-hour special talk about doing her own detective work. She started looking at Instagram and social media. This is something that somebody younger would do right away. Like somebody in their 20s and 30s are really in tune to social media. Somebody from my era, I'm kind of social media savvy. I would have obviously done this, probably the same thing. But when you hear about the siblings, now Olivia is older, right? But she was right away, right on to, let's look and see who she was corresponding with. And in this 48-hour special, she said she was able to gain access to her sister's account and she was able to look at things that investigators need to see. And these are all things that we shouldn't really be hearing about. And in this episode, we didn't hear full details of it, but she talked about a Bryan Kohberger Instagram account liking the pictures of Madison Mogan, liking a ton of pictures. I think she said all of her pictures he liked that were posted on her Instagram account. But that Instagram account, alleged to have been attached to Bryan Kohberger, no longer exists. But that doesn't mean, as we know, that if the data is there, that law enforcement, the law enforcement side cannot extract. They can still go and subpoena Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, and get the data on that account to see what's happening. So if he tried to delete it, or whoever owned that account tried to delete it, the forensic detectives, the forensic examinations can extract that information. So the coroner, Kathy Mabbitt, she early on gave interviews, and she gave a riveting interview on November 17th of 2022. By a show of hands here in the chat, how many of you listened to the coroner, the Latah County coroner, Kathy Mabbitt? She gave a riveting interview to not only News Nation, but she gave one to a local outlet, and she talked about the injuries. She talked about stabbings, the punctures, she called them. She did that before the gag order, and she didn't sound sure of herself. I went back and tried to extract the interview that I had saved in my folder, and News Nation took that video down. I can't even access it. So I don't know if anybody can find that interview from News Nation. It was with Banfield. I was trying to play it because I remember it. The only thing I could find is a 1-minute Instagram, Twitter video, and I'll play that for you. And it's Banfield questioning the Latah County coroner. And it was just, for me, it's like kind of things that make you go, and then there was a full interview with a local station, and I'll play that for you guys. Of course, I'm looking for it, and I'm not sure exactly where I saved it. So let me just look real quick here. I want to play that because, golly. All right, here it is. Nope, that's not it. I'm going to play this other video, and then I'll find it, and I'll be right back to you guys. Give me 2 seconds. All right, this is from News Nation from yesterday. I want you guys to see it. It involves my good friend, Tracy Waldner. She's going to be coming on back to join us. I sent her an email. She's going to come back on to talk about this case. But let's just listen to what Tracy had to say. This is in reference to the 48-hour interview with Kaylee Gonzalez's dad, Steve. So let's take a listen.
It has been 10 months since the murders of 4 University of Idaho students gripped the nation and the school. Now the father of one of those victims is shedding some light on what happened that night. Steve Gonzalez says that there is evidence that his daughter, Kaylee, was trying to escape, but was trapped both by the attacker and another one of the victims. He made that comment for an upcoming 48-hour special. Meanwhile, the suspect in the murders, Bryan Kohberger, back in court this week as the judge considers whether or not to allow cameras during the trial. Joining us now on all of this is Tracy Waldner, News Nation contributor and former CIA officer and FBI special agent. Tracy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
What are you tracking in terms of these new comments from Steve Gonzalez? It seems he's saying that his daughter fought back, even tried to escape. It is not part of the affidavit. So what are you tracking, and ultimately, could it make a difference to investigators in this trial?
The difference, I'm going to start with your last question first. The difference that it really could make is in pointing towards motive, because the reality is if they cannot prove a motive, it's going to be very difficult to build the case and put Bryan Kohberger kind of the why he was at the scene and why he would do something like this. And this really goes to what I sort of hypothesized. I think it was on your show early on when this all started, that I believed that unfortunately Maddie was probably the target because Kaylee wasn't supposed to be there. And Xana and Ethan, I believe, were probably killed last because they confronted him. And so this really speaks to the timeline. Again, why go up 3 flights of stairs? It's highly risky behavior. And I do believe that she was probably targeted. So I really think that this will help perhaps go towards motive.
I appreciate that. And what does that mean to be potentially trapped by the attacker and also another one of the victims? What are you reading into there?
What I think, and this is just in thinking about the layout of the room, if the bed was indeed sort of pushed, think about it as like an L shape up against a wall, what it would have meant is that Kaylee was kind of sleeping up against that wall and Maddie would have been, kind of more towards the door of the room. So the attack potentially could have been on Maddie first. Kaylee probably stirred as a result of this attack and most likely sort of had nowhere to go, kind of became sandwiched in between the wall and in between Maddie.
Yeah, it's just horrific to talk about. I do want to ask about the trial. It does sound like the judge is leaning towards banning cameras. And this is despite the fact that 2 of the victims' families are emphatic that they do want cameras there. What do you think he will ultimately decide?
I agree with you. Just in everything I've seen so far, it seems that he's leaning towards banning cameras. I do think he actually took their wishes into account, and that was first when he asked the media to sort of back off Kohberger. He issued sort of a warning. Judge did. I think he feels that some media has not adhered to those warnings, and as a result, that then is superseding what the family is asking for because they are not operating within the perimeters that he set with that first warning.
You know, and we're also seeing reports of the prison granting special requests to Kohberger at this time. So we're talking about vegan food, suits, access to a
All right, I want to just say something about this, and I love, Tracy, and I love this reporter. The jails and prisons, they make special meals for vegan. They make special meals for the Jewish folks that get incarcerated that need their special meals for Shabbos. There's a ton. This is nothing special that's happening for Kohberger, and the fact that he's getting suits, that is being provided to him by his family, by somebody outside. Yes, Joey, thank you. Kosher food. Yes. There's all different types of things that they do for prisons, for prisoners and jails. Halal too for the list can just keep going on and on. But the suits, people are getting caught up on the Kohberger suit thing. If you have your attorneys who are in contact with your family, which I believe is the case here with Kohberger, his family is providing him with the suits. If you don't have any family support and you are somebody who is a loner and you have nobody who's going to get you and provide you with a suit, then you're not going to have a suit. So, and that's a fact. That's just how it goes. So I just wanted to let that be clear here, is that don't get ahead of yourselves and don't get caught up in this media frenzy. Ed Wallace, thanks for joining. But this is nothing special. And this reporter brings it up and Tracy entertains it. But again, I enjoyed Tracy's commentary. I love that she has all this knowledge. Let's just take a listen to her response to this.
Time. So we're talking about vegan food, suits, access to a computer. Anything on that list unusual to you at this point?
No, but I get that it's really frustrating. We have this discussion in my criminal justice class with my students all the time. The reality is defendants have rights. Whether we like it or not, they are still innocent until proven guilty. Whether I think Kohberger is guilty or innocent truly doesn't matter.
I love what she just said here. And I didn't listen to this beforehand. I just saw this and I saved it and I said, let me play it, because I always assume that when Tracy comes on, it's going to be decent commentary. So she answered correctly. Just because we don't like it doesn't mean that that it's not going to be happening and not going to be provided for him. So this is almost over. And then I got Ed Wallace in.
And he still has rights. He has not been convicted. However, he has been indicted. Therefore, he's in custody. However, they do have to adhere to the best of their abilities to his dietary standards. In terms of the suit, all he really has to do, all his attorneys have to do, quite frankly, is ask. Typically, that's done at trial because you don't want to bias a jury, and so you put the defendant into a suit. Not typically in these early hearings. That is a little unusual, but it's not that it's never been done before.
Yeah, and in terms of access to a computer, especially with his background as a PhD candidate in criminology, et cetera, what do you suspect he will be using it for during this time? And could it have any impact on the trial?
I don't believe that he probably has, I guess we could say, unfettered access to the internet, if you will. There's probably certain times of the day and certain sites that he's able to go on. I think what he's going to use it for, quite frankly, is for his own defense. I think he thinks he's smarter than most people. And I think that's probably what he's doing, is researching his defense.
I 100% agree with her. So that was that was a great answer by Tracy. Ed, thanks for joining. How are you, brother? Everything going good?
Good.
Yeah. So there was the 48-hour special. I received an overwhelming amount of people who were looking for reactions from us on this. And the media is the media. You got Peter Van Zandt, which is a 48-hour producer, reporter, and then Howard Bloom, New York Times reporter and author. They're chiming in on this. But what was provided, I think, the meat and potatoes of it. I don't know if you saw it, Ed, but we heard from Xana Canodal's father and her sister for the very first time, and we heard from Kaylee Gonzalez's family all throughout this until the gag order came, and Shannon Gray was being the family spokesperson. But that was what was riveting to me, is to hear some of the new stuff from the two families, that they were doing their own investigations early on. And you and I talked about this, how that could really trip things up. But I guess, because of a loved one being murdered in such a fashion, some people just are going to continue on. And that's how it seemed. Her sister Olivia seemed like she was very internet savvy, and she was out there doing all of her picking, and she was doing a lot of interviews. Ed, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea for the family to start doing these kind of private investigations. First of all, to conduct investigations, you're supposed to be licensed, okay, in the state that you're conducting the investigation. Two, if they're going to potentially be called as witnesses, character witnesses, or anything like that by the prosecution, then this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
To be doing this kind of investigation and research, because it's going to taint the witness.
Yeah, I agree. And you worry about the overstep, right? If you do too much, now you have a problem, right? As you said, could taint witnesses. It could be stuff that now would not be admissible in a court of law if they were, poking into areas where investigators who are taxed with investigating these crimes need to be. So I'm just looking for that video. I'm going to put you on full screen, Ed. Also, I wanted to ask you about the severe defense wounds that Jasmine, that's Xana Canodal's sister, she talked about, and her father, Jeffrey. That was before the gag order was put out, and this coroner, Kathleen Mabbitt, she made these notifications. And I know we did gazillion videos on this, but we did do one specifically about this.
Yeah, and I don't understand the specificity and the details that were given to the family like that.
Yeah, it was troubling to me. I'm just trying to search for this video, and that's why I have you full screen.
Yeah, this is a coroner, not a medical examiner's office, and also a defense attorney. And you would think, as a defense attorney, the coroner here, who's playing double roles, would have known that to give that kind of information out to the family members who may be potentially witnesses in this case could be prejudicial. Okay. That was something that should have been held close to the vest, and that information should have come out in trial by the pathologist that conducted the autopsy, or the first officers on the scene, or the crime scene investigators.
Agreed. I think I found it, Ed, so I'm going to fast forward it to the small part that she talks. This is on CNN. I was looking for the one with Banfield, but I've got it here. So let's take a listen. Let's see what she has to say. And I'm going to continue to look for the longer one. It's just about 1 minute and 21 seconds, but this one's quick.
There were stab wounds on the hands of at least one of the students that make it appear that it would be defensive wounds.
Authorities canvassing neighbors.
So that was earlier on, and that was the statement, and that's what caused this frenzy of information that was out there. And she said in another interview, one or more the victims had defensive stab wounds or slashes on their hands.
That should not have been made public. And remember when she did this, was Bryan arrested yet?
No.
Okay.
That was on the 17th, this interview right here. So
yeah, exactly. It should not have come out. I mean, you could tell, that it's kind of amateurish that she would give a press conference and give out that information when the only people that really know that information would be law enforcement, the pathologist, coroner, and the perp.
Yeah. I agree. So Ed, here it is. I think I found it. Let me just see if I can get this on.
stabbed to death. The county coroner tells CBS News that the killer likely used the same large knife to attack all four. Just getting some breaking news in the case of those 4 college students who were murdered in Idaho. The autopsy report was just released and reveals the victims were stabbed to death. The county coroner tells CBS News that the killer likely used the same large knife to attack all 4 students. CBS's Christina Ruffini is there. She spoke with the coroner, who says the nature of the crime seems personal.
More than 4 days since the gruesome murders at a house off campus at the University of Idaho, the town of Moscow remains in shock. The campus is deserted. The murders are still unsolved. This social media video shows 2 of the victims at a food truck just hours before they died. Today, the county coroner released the cause of death.
They were all murdered through stabbing with some kind of probably a larger knife.
Outside the home just across the street from the university, police tape and a small memorial. Many students have already packed up and left early for the Thanksgiving break, but classes are still in session. The sister of victim Kaylee Gonsalves posted a stark warning on Instagram. To the students of the University of Idaho still staying around campus, leave. Your grades are severely less important than your lives. And from grieving family members, mounting frustration about the police investigation.
We're not getting any answers, and we're not going to settle for that.
As this close-knit community
So that was a sister from the beginning. She was, out there. But Ed, go ahead. I saw you shaking your head about the statement.
Yeah, again, the coroner, going right back to the coroner. The coroner's the pathologist does the cause and manner. Now, in the coroner system, the cause is usually the pathologist. The manner can come from the coroner based upon the pathologist's findings. That said, murder is a legal definition. Okay. And it's not a cause of death in pathology.
Seems like
in the pathology, the term would be homicide, not murder. Murder is a crime. Homicide is not a crime. Homicide is a medical legal definition, and the medical legal definition of homicide is death at the hands of another. It doesn't say whether that death is illegal or legal, because you can have a legal death. You can have self-defense. Okay, so therefore, she should never have said murder.
Right. Yeah. Here it is, Ed. I found it. This is with Banfield. It's only 1:51, but it is really cringeworthy, this interview. And the full one was 5 minutes, and News Nation took it down. You can't even access it. So I think they might have forgotten that they tweeted this, but I had to get this through Twitter.
It was late at night or early in the morning.
This is November 17th.
So it seems likely that maybe they were sleeping.
Were they found in separate areas of the house?
That hasn't been disclosed yet.
Can you tell me, when you say that they might have been sleeping, were they found in beds?
Yes.
And so can you tell me if there were multiple stab wounds per victim?
Ed was shaking his
or
head.
were these sort of, individual lethal stab wounds that may have been less in number, but more in lethality?
There were multiple stab wounds, yes, on them. So, and
were there? Go ahead.
And most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound. Yes.
Can you describe what that one might have been?
But they were to the fatal ones were to the chest area or the upper body area.
Oh boy.
Were there, and I only ask this because it sometimes determines what kind of a crime this was, a crime of passion, a random crime, a fight, a struggle. Was there, were any of them slashed? Were any of their necks cut? Or were these all punctured?
This is the Latah County coroner. For those of you who are confused in the chat, the Latah County coroner is an elected official, and it was elected to another 4 years in 2022. She served 16 years so far as the Latah County coroner, and she was proudly, in the next interview I show you, is going to tell the reporter, I was just elected to another 4 years. So there's another 4 years, and she is still there. It's an elected position. She can't. I'm certain that she can be fired if she does something criminal, but she's still there.
Wounds.
Well, it was a pretty large.
Slashed? Were any of their necks cut, or were these all puncture wounds?
Well, it was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. And they were definitely stabbings. And I mean, it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death.
Oh boy.
Ed, is she going to be called to testify in court?
If she made the manner determination, I mean, if she did the cause rather determination.
She did. I'll play the next interview.
If she did that, all right, because the manner is going to come from the pathologist. The cause can come from her in the coroner system. If that is in fact the case, she may have to be called, or maybe the pathologist can do it. I'm not sure. But at this point in time, if I was a prosecutor, I'd be looking to stay away from her. I wouldn't want to put her on the stand. I mean, we saw this before. This is not new, all right. And I was disgusted the first time I saw it, and I'm even more disgusted now.
I mean, like I said, this is troubling to say the least.
Well, it comes from a lack of experience.
Yeah, and she gave several. It wasn't just one interview. I have another one that I looked at before we went live, and it was like an unfiltered kind of raw video from a local station, and it even got worse. Maybe I won't even play it.
Don't, because it'll just make me more upset. Because you never see in major jurisdictions like New York City or some of the bigger cities, you never see a pathologist or a medical examiner come out, or even like in the case of Las Vegas, which is a coroner system, or the LA County coroner. You never see them come out and give a press conference like this or give this kind of detail. You never saw it in OJ, some of the high profile cases. You've never seen any of these things.
Yeah, it's true. It's troubling. So yeah, we heard from Zaina Kanoto's sister, and she talked about these defensive wounds, and she talked about how how close she was with her sister, and her father said that early on, before the gag order was put into place, and this gag order started after December 30th, when Bryan Kohberger was shortly after he was arrested, right? Remember, there was the whole feeding frenzy of exchanging information and everybody putting out their speculation and all kinds of leaked information that shouldn't be out there, that should be presented in a court of law. So the judge, it wasn't Judge, I think it was the First Circuit Court judge that handled this, the female, she put the gag order, and then Judge extended it. But now we don't even have a trial date. It was supposed to be October 2nd, and now we have nothing. No trial date, no nothing right now. We're just in kind of suspended animation as it pertains to this. Some other things that came out was the Gonzalez family said, and this, Ed, I don't know if you caught on to this, but her father, Steve, said that they believe that Bryan Kohberger entered that dwelling before that murder, and they didn't say how they know it or how they feel that he did. They're simply saying that for him to go up to that 3rd floor and work his way down and murder those 4 students, he had to have knowledge of the inside of that home. And he also said that Bryan Kohberger brought a kill kit. These are his words. These are not my words. But Stephen Gonzalez said that Bryan Kohberger brought a kill kit and planned and stalked the girls and planned this attack out. Any thoughts on that?
Well, nothing of that nature has come out in the court filings thus far, or in the hearings. So we'll see if any of this comes out later in trial. I don't know where the father got this. Who is relying on for this information. I heard some of the things about being trapped in the bed and fighting and so forth for her life. I heard all kinds of things like that. I don't know where he got this information, other than, somebody telling them from law enforcement or whatever the case may be. But is there any evidence that supports that? So far, I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, that's the thing. And they said it loud and clear on this 48-hour special to cover their own butts. They said, we have no way of proving this. You know, this is just, again, when you're talking about news, and 48 Hours is a news entertainment company, right? Paramount, 48 Hours. I watched the 8-month, they did the same kind of setup 8 months ago on the University of Idaho murders. And when I watched the 8-month 40-minute special, it was a lot of the regurgitated same stuff, because really not a lot new has come out. And the new things that they presented were the kill kit, the Instagram, which we knew about because Kaylee's sister put it out. She put it out early on. And also the new thing was that they feel he was in that house beforehand, but didn't say how they know that. So,
now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the house listed in real estate website
yes,
with floor plans and
absolutely.
and photographs?
You and I looked at it, so I know what
exactly.
you're talking about, Ed. We in our earlier live streams presented. Before, obviously, Bryan Kohberger was taken into custody, we presented a floor plan from the real estate site, and it showed, we looked at the kitchen, we looked at the living room, we looked at all the floors. So if this guy is a smarty pants, or anybody who was planning this out could have easily went on and looked where these were, the whole setup of the house.
Yeah. So again, now there was a question in the chat about could anybody stop them from conducting a private investigation? Okay, if they went in, if they indeed hired a private investigator, a licensed private investigator, licensed and bonded private investigator, to conduct a private investigation while the criminal investigation is ongoing, well, the district attorney could be made aware of this, and then the district attorney could go into a court and get a cease and desist order. And or could go to the families and say, please stop this from proceeding any further, because it could potentially negatively impact our case.
Right. Yeah. And that could very well happen. That could very well happen. Ed, how's it going over there in Jersey? You got a situation? You want me to take you off camera?
Yeah, just for a second.
Okay, no problem. I got
you.
Mute
me and take me off camera.
I got you. I'm going to mute you right now. Mute, mic mute. So I want to play this. This was from several months ago when the prosecution decided to go with the death penalty. And they have in the state of Idaho the death penalty, and it's by firing squad or lethal injection. And they can't get the companies to provide the lethal injection drugs. So we're talking about a firing squad. If Bryan Kohberger is tried and found guilty, he would face potentially a firing squad. This is old media covering the district attorney going for the death penalty.
And I'm holding new court documents out of Latah County, Idaho, as we're learning now that prosecutors will seek capital punishment. They will seek the death penalty there for Bryan Kohberger. This is new information that we're following here on Live Now from Fox. I want to put up a tweet just to show these court filings one more time, as the state of Idaho will seek the death penalty against Bryan Kohberger. He's accused of killing those 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus home last fall. So this is certainly some big news here on Live Now from Fox. In the court filing, it says that these counts, at the time of the murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder. Also, the murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting a sexual depravity. The murder or circumstances surrounding its commission exhibited utter disregard for human life. And in the end, they say the state gives this notice based on the fact that it is not identified or been provided with any mitigating circumstances sufficient to prohibit the tiers of fact from considering all penalties authorized by the Idaho legislature, including the possibility of capital sentence. So the state has filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty against Bryan Kohberger. This in new court filings here on this Monday. And the factors, like I just read, contributing to the notice include the fact that at the time of the murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder. The murders were also especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel. So something we're following here very, very closely is the 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary in connection with the stabbing deaths of those Moscow, Idaho, those 4 students. The judge noted that this is, quote, potentially facing the death penalty if found guilty. So those 4 individuals, they're students just off campus at the University of Idaho. Kohberger was a graduate.
Bryan Kohberger in
Here's
that
another
murder
one
trial.
that I wanted to play. They were talking about the cameras in the courtroom, and the judge is swaying, I believe, in the direction of complying with the defense's request to not have cameras in the courtroom. Ed, I wanted to go to you quick before I show this little piece. What's the upside and the downside to having cameras in the courtroom, in your opinion, Ed?
Okay, having had testified in cases where court TV had cameras in the courtroom, it's not just the video camera and the lighting and the boom mics. It's also the press in there with their 35 millimeter cameras, clicking away 100 photographs a second or whatever they're doing. It's very distracting to the witnesses, okay? And it also, you'll get people that start playing to the camera, your prosecutors, your defense attorneys,
Drama,
the judge,
like the theatrics.
The judge, and then the witnesses will start playing to the camera instead of being focused on the trial as it would normally be when the cameras weren't present.
Yeah, and he said that was clear and evident in the Alec Murdaugh trial. That people were playing it up, and it was like almost like a Hollywood movie. They were, they was eating up the cameras.
Yeah, and it's very distracting. I've had it. I've seen it firsthand. Hey, I just want to step back just a little bit about the kill kit.
Okay.
Now, since his professor in his master's degree program wrote a book together with BTK, most serial killers have kill kits, or it's normally referred to as a murder kit. Okay, Ted Bundy had it, and when they arrested him and they opened up the bag, you find the restraints, the knives, the saws, the handcuffs, all these different things that are in there. So knowing that his background in having studied serial killers and so forth, is it a possibility? Yes, but have I seen anything that confirmed that? No. But where's the evidence?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, because we didn't hear anything. We didn't see anything. I didn't see anything in the recovered evidence that went back to the judge on the warrants said anything about a murder kit or a kill kit.
Yeah. No, you're right. I didn't see anything in any of the probable cause affidavits or any of the released items. So that was all new last night. And you have to wonder, is this now, 48 hours way of getting their viewership up and the oohs and ahs, but it's coming from the family. So they're just regurgitating what the family wants them to put out and what they've found. Jeff, thank you for being a member. He says, Jeff and his wife Eileen says, #Ed, #DutyRon. Can law enforcement stop other investigations? ? I would not want to be caught in the middle. Not my profession. I'd stay out.
Yeah, I think I answered that already, Jeff. I believe I saw you write that earlier, and I answered it. They could ask the family if they indeed have hired a private investigator to stop. If they haven't, and then they can tell them the perils of trying to do an investigation themselves without a license, and going on shows like this and putting out this information, you're also tainting the jury pool.
Exactly. Yes. Makes it much more difficult to now get a fair and impartial jury pool when they're doing their interviews. Thank you to everyone who's given super chats and supports us through the Buy Me a Cup of Coffee app, to the Patreon and the members. Thank you for becoming new members. Our whip. Thank you. To the benefit of the people who came in late, I'm going to play this again. This is the preview from 48 hours. I'm going to show the full 40 minutes uninterrupted without commercials on the members only. I'm going to do that probably sometime soon I'll be uploading that onto the members only site.
48 Hours explores details of the night of the Idaho student murders. Correspondent Peter Van Sant spoke with two of the victims' families, one speaking out for the very first time and one providing new details about their daughter's fight for her life.
It's been a long and painful journey for the families of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, the four University of Idaho students who were stabbed to death in the pre-dawn hours of November 13th, 2022. Do you ever dream of your sister?
Yeah, I've had some dreams of her. Just gives me some peace knowing that I know she's okay.
Xana Kernodle's sister Jasmine and father Jeffrey are speaking out for the first time since Xana's murder.
It just happened, you know? What do? You can't do a damn thing.
Everybody's going to work and you look out the window and there's kids running down the street laughing and you're just like, how can you be out there playing? My daughter's dead.
On the night of the murders, Christy and Steve Gonzalez's daughter Kaylee was in the same bed as her childhood friend, Maddie Mogen. The Gonzalezes say coroner Kathy Mabbitt told them before a gag order the killer attacked Maddie first, then moved on to Kaylee.
There's evidence to show that she awakened and tried to get out of that situation.
They say she cried out, and her wounds show she fought for her life.
The way the bed was set up is what
She was trapped.
She was trapped.
Xana also fought back. According to her father, she had severe defensive wounds. She went down fighting.
I believe so. It's upsetting to think about.
She was always a very strong person.
A judge has entered a plea of not guilty on Bryan Kohberger's behalf, but he is not the person the families want us to remember.
He's not important other than what he did and being held accountable. I'll be here to keep reminding people who these victims are.
So Peter is joining us now, and you mentioned it in this piece, but a reminder to everyone that there's a gag order in place. This case got a lot of attention initially. We haven't seen it in the media that much because really, people can't talk. Authorities can't talk, but the families can.
Right, the families can, and what the Gonzalez family, who lost their daughter Kaylee, what they do is they share with us facts from their own investigation. They hired their own investigator, but also facts that the coroner and a lead investigator in the case gave them before the gag order was.
So you hear how you hear how he specifically lines this thing out to keep any trouble away from 48 Hours and the team that put this piece together. He puts it all on the family here, just as you said. And this is where the line of journalism and justice gets kind of crossed, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I understand the family; they're hurt. I get it. They lost a loved one in a heinous manner, and I'm pretty sure they have legal counsel, but I can't imagine the legal counsel telling them that doing this, giving these interviews, saying these things is a good thing for the case. He said he wanted justice for his daughters and their victims of Bryan. Then you have to be mindful that every time you make these utterances and give these interviews, that the potential harm to the case, the potential harm to the jury pool, all this, could impact and deny justice.
Correct. And this comment here is correct. Ethan's family is the most quiet, but his mom said just a few months ago that they are going to not attend the trial. They are going to let the justice system take its course. And they haven't said anything in regards to any communication that they have received from any law enforcement. And the same thing goes for Madison Mogen's family. You heard her father come on and say, I want us all to pray. And, I played those pieces from, the interviews with the Mogen family and Ethan Chapin's family. And they want nothing to do with anything that would remotely stop the wheels of justice from spinning. And I tip my cap to them, but I also like you just said, Ed, I feel my heart breaks for the Gonzalez family. My heart breaks for, you know, all of these families. I'd never want to be put in this position. We have children of our own. You know, we do not want to get that horrible news. So nobody can walk in their shoes, and nobody knows what.
I've had a family member that was murdered. Okay. And, you know, I can't, it wasn't as heinous as these murders were rather. You know, it was blunt force trauma injuries. He was beaten to death. Okay. Blood internally. But, I understand the pain. I understand the suffering. And this was my godfather. Okay. My first cousin and my godfather. You know, no homicides should occur. No crime should occur, period. I mean, but that's the nature of the society we live in, right?
Yeah.
They're going to occur, but okay, if you're looking to get justice for your family, you know, you have to be mindful of how you can positively and negatively impact what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. I wholeheartedly, hands down, 100% agree with that. We have to stop this just for a second because it's Dawn Marie's birthday. I just saw it in the chat. So happy birthday, Dawn Marie. This is a tough topic that we're talking about here, but just Ed and I want to wish you a happy birthday, many, many more healthy and happy ones. So
thank you. Happy birthday, Dawn Marie.
Yeah, she works hard for us and for the channel, just like all the other moderators that work tirelessly to keep the chat classy. So thank you, Dawn, for what you do, and happy birthday. Much love to you.
She's 21, right?
Yeah, you're only 21 once, right?
Oh,
all right.
21, young forever.
Let's let the rest of this roll, and then we'll get to the audience questions, Ed. And I think Cindy Holenbeck from Pullman, Washington, may or may not be joining us. So let's just let this rock.
Share with us facts from their own investigation. They hired their own investigator, but also facts that the coroner and a lead investigator in the case gave them before the gag order was in place. So we have some new information in the course of this show that is fascinating.
I know you don't want to talk about everything you learned, but what's something that sort of jumped out at you?
The big thing is that based on all that they have learned, the Gonzalez family is convinced that Bryan Kohberger, the suspect in these 4 killings, entered that house on King Road in Moscow, Idaho, on a day prior to the murders. Why did they think that? Because the coroner told them that they believed that the 2 girls on the 3rd floor were the first ones attacked and killed. How did he know to go to the 3rd floor? And they also have, the family believes they have found a connection through an Instagram account that they downloaded at the time when Kohberger's name first came out. And based on their investigation, there's a lot of controversy about this because we haven't been able to get verification from any authority on this. But they believe that there is a link, that Bryan Kohberger had liked some pictures of Maddie Mogan, the girl who was in the bed with Kaylee, best friends. They'd been sleeping together since they were little girls.
Right.
And that creates a link. The defense has said there is no link, but the Gonzalez family believes they found one.
It would explain a lot of the questions that people had about, you know, where did he come from? Because it really did seem like there's no way they could possibly sort of cross paths. You do have some good news, though.
Yes, there is some good news for the family. Olivia, who is Kaylee's older sister, recently gave birth to a new baby girl in Los Angeles named Theodora Maddie K. The Maddie K is for the 2 best friends who were murdered that day. And the family looks at the circumstances of this birth as a sign. Olivia looked out, and she lives in West LA, and she saw a rainbow for the first time while she was in labor. The room she was in was 1113. That's the date of the murder. And the time that the baby was born was 4:21 a.m. And authorities believe that's when the murders were occurring.
Whoa.
And so they think, the family believes, this is a sign from the 2 girls saying, we're okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
You know, there was a lot in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that, you know, I had to take issue with the sequencing. Okay. Okay. If you come in the kitchen, which is the middle floor of this house, if you come in the kitchen and you know that the kitchen and the dining room and the living room are all in that one floor, okay, and you see a staircase going upstairs, wouldn't any normal person think, okay, that's where the bedrooms are? Okay, that's one thing. So I don't know how they sequenced it, and I don't know how the coroner sequenced it, saying that the first two to be killed were upstairs. Okay, again, I don't have all the details, but is that her making that conclusion, or was she guided to that conclusion by the work of the crime scene investigators who maybe had a trail or saw something that made them believe, okay, there's a blood trail that leads away from that bedroom, going down the stairs and into the other victim's bedroom?
I believe we asked Barbara Butcher this, if there was a way for them to come up with the sequencing of death, with the blood transfer from victim to victim. Am I going crazy, or was that a conversation?
No, we had that conversation, and I spoke about that that after the first victim was stabbed with that knife, now you're going to have a cross-contaminated knife as the subsequent victims are stabbed with it either as well. And then if like the first victim is stabbed and then the suspect walks to a different portion of the room and creates a blood trail, a single blood trail of that particular victim's blood, it's not commingled with anything, and then stabs and kills the next victim and then walks out of that room, now he has commingled blood on the knife, leaving a blood trail, with two sets of DNA in it. There's ways we can do this, but I haven't heard anything like that.
Let's look at this question that came up from RAS Illusion. And I know you probably read this because I did. It was way back. And he or she says, when the entire trial is supposed to be public in the first place, how can facts out in the public be a bad thing? The premise is flawed. Secrecy is a problem, not a solution. Well, the trial hasn't started.
Right. So any potential juror that's out there listening to these television shows and interviews are now being prejudiced. That's what that's what a defense attorney could claim if they're seeking a change of venue or any number of things. Okay. So investigations should not be open at this point in time. All right. When the trial proceeds, yes. Okay, at that point, things come up. Yes, Greg, yes, we talk about Lecard's transfer principle all the time. And exactly right. And, but we haven't heard anything with this case that suggested that any DNA work on the blood samples that were collected there were able to determine sequencing and paths.
Correct. And I don't anticipate that we'll hear that until the trial commences. And everybody wants this information. We live in a society of information. Everybody wants to get info, but they don't want to know about what the consequences of releasing that information is. And everyone gets into this whole defensive mode of the secrecy. They're trying to hide things from us. They're trying to keep things from us. They're trying to do this. They're trying to do that. It's not the case. And again, once you see this trial commence, Cindy Holenbeck is here. She's from Pullman, Washington. She's her son went to school in Moscow. I believe she went to the University of Idaho. I'm not sure. She's going to correct me. She's shaking her head. So I think this old man got it right. I love her and I love her input. I want to get her thoughts. Love you right back, Cindy. I want to get her thoughts on this 48-hour special. She's busy with her Moose Lodge meetings and all the things that she's doing, but I hope that she saw it. I want to get her thoughts. Cindy, welcome.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Cindy.
I feel bad because I haven't been around much, but yeah, it's not just the Moose Lodge, it's work.
We understand. You are a local resident. This case is near and dear to you. Yes, it's about your community. It's about your people. And we want to hear what your thoughts are on this 48-hour special. Did you get a chance to watch it? And
I was able to get through 2/3, and I've got it paused because I really wanted to come on to see you. So I'll watch the rest of it after. And I want to say initially I was so annoyed that Howard Bloom is writing a book because we have so many talented writers in town. Like, I got my MFA in writing from the University of Idaho, and everybody who was my mentor, they live locally. And then some of them live 45 minutes away, where Kohberger went to the grocery store, if you remember, and bought, we don't know what he bought, but remember he went to that grocery store?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's where I went to college, down there, 45 minutes away. That's where I got my bachelor's degree. So we have a bunch of writers down there. So I'm like, I know it's very territorial, but I'm thinking this is a dude who's got already so many accolades and stuff, and he doesn't have any connection to our town, and he's coming here writing this book. And I'm thinking, oh, I want someone here to write the book. Like someone who's local should be writing this book.
What
I
were
don't
your
have
thoughts?
time. I can't do it.
What were your thoughts on what Kaylee's dad put out about this kill kit and the Instagram posts and of allegedly of Bryan Kohberger?
I've always kind of suspected after they said, after they mentioned the stuff about perhaps he was DMing Maddie or Kaylee and they didn't respond. We don't have evidence that's 100% true, and I get it, and I love what Ed just said, but I'm just going to say I've had incidents where guys do this, and if you make a comment back and then you cut them off, they'll call you names. And women in the chat, please tell me. I mean, guys, maybe it happens to you too, but like they get so angry. And if that's just like a normal kind of wacko, but Kohberger, if he is the person that did this, and I believe he is, he's another kind of wacko. And so if he was getting ignored, so that's the thing about the Instagram, that I there has to be a connection. And I was listening to what they said, because I was listening to the 48 hours when I drove home from Moscow to Pullman, because I go to Moscow to shop, and I dropped my son off because he babysat my dog while I was at the Moose convention. They said, well, there's no motive. There's no motive. There's no motive. Everybody in the audience, do we need a motive to prove a murder? No, we don't have to have a motive. We know that. Is it helpful? Yes, but we don't. So that's how I feel about that. And then Mr. Gonzalez, and I listened to what Ed said. I don't know if Kohberger would necessarily have a kill kit like Dennis Rader or Bundy or those guys, because he's not a serial killer, right? He's a mass murderer right now. But you know, he's a kind of an idiot. So maybe he just had like the knife and something. And I want to make a correction, because everybody does this wrong, not you guys. But the guy on 48 Hours, Van Zant, called him a PhD candidate. Not a candidate, a student. A candidate is somebody who is ready to get the PhD. Like they're really close. He was a student, only there 3 months before they said.
Yeah, and most of academia doesn't like the PhD-C anyhow. They don't want you using that.
No. But anyway, I always correct people when they do that, because I work there. I work at the grad school. He worked for us. He was our employee. And when they did that traffic stop, you remember the traffic stop where he talked smack to the woman? That's my building, everybody. When I saw it on the news, I was like, oh, there's where I work.
I remember you telling me that. I wanted to, while I have you here, because there's lots of people in the chat, and you guys in the chat, let me know if you'd be interested in hearing about this. Cindy, I wanted to find out, we now have radio silence on the demolition of 1122 King Road.
No, they're not going to do it. They're postponing it again.
Right, but I'm saying nobody's revisiting it. Who made the decision that they're not going to do it? Where did it come from? And when did that happen?
Well, I saw it. Okay, so I applied for a job at University of Idaho. I didn't get it, but I'm okay, guys. So it's all cool. But I was there. So I was there for a whole day. It was really cool. And they put out that message like not long after that. And I was really excited. And I sent it to you, Ron, didn't I?
You did. But I wanted to revisit it with all these people. Ed, how do you feel about them coming up with that decision? I already know how you feel, but could you let the audience know?
Yeah, I think it's great, because we don't want to demolish it. Like, I mean, you know, we've talked about this for months, and if we're going to keep it there so we can have the jury go through there and get a feel for what the victims went through, I'm all for it. If that's going to help the prosecution, I'm all for it. So I think the president just continues, because Jody Walker made the comment. She's head of communications, and I don't think anyone else would be able to make that decision. Hi, Joey Brooklyn.
Cindy, you got a fan. You got a fan right there. You got many fans. But
so I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know how I felt at first, but I'm one of those kind of people. I do not steadfastly put my foot down and say, that's that. I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to be proved wrong. I think that's really important.
So those of you who are joining, Cindy Hollenbeck is, well, she was at one point. Were you a resident of Moscow, Idaho, or was you just on?
Oh, I'm so sad. Yes, I moved away from Moscow 2 years ago, but it's only because, so Moscow and Pullman are so close. You hear this all the time. You see it on the show. It literally takes you about 9 minutes to go back and forth. And so think about that with Kohberger too, because Kohberger's house, and sometime maybe, if you want to have me on, Ron, I can do like a little visual thing for you. Kohberger's house is right up the street. And
I'd like to see some video of that. Not live, but if you could do in landscape mode, like some stable video of it, I'd like to just see it myself, just for myself.
I'd be happy to do it. It would take me no time. And because I've worked all around here, I worked at the engineering plant, which is Kohberger's house is on the way there.
Yep.
And then Nancy Grace, of course, as you probably remember when she came here and the town went bananas.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, they went crazy. But anyway, so Moscow and Pullman are 9 minutes.
They went
apart.
crazy. They went crazy because they liked her or they didn't like her.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you for making me clarify. Nobody wanted her there. And when she went to the corner club, they would not let her in. And I was bartending at the Moose Lodge that night, and I sent her a tweet and said, hey, you want to come talk to me? I'll talk to you. She ignored it. And I was like, well, too bad. You could have come to the Moose Lodge. There was no customers until about 9:30 that night. And it was the cook from the jail, the cook who cooks for Kohberger. So that was interesting. You guys see how connected I am? Like, it's
well,
so
the cook for Kohberger is an interesting guy. We'd like to, once the trial is over, I'd like to talk to him and see what he was really feeding them. Anyways, Cindy, we're over an hour, so I got to run. I want to say thank you for always giving your local perspective. Not only for you being a friend, but also being a channel member, Patreon. I know you're a Patreon now. So thank you for supporting Ed and I and giving us that, kind of boots on the ground residents perspective, because it's a valuable thing, because the videos and the looking of the landscape, you gave me a look inside the Mad Greek restaurant. And I don't think many people have seen the inside of that Mad Greek restaurant. And I thought that was also really, really compelling for me to see that space. And it was not some huge, big place. No. But we want to wrap it up. So Ed is giving us the thumbs up, and I appreciate you coming. I appreciate it tremendously.
Before I go, I just want to say one thing. So Ron, we got to make sure that we get my picture with Chief Fry, because we haven't done that yet.
Oh yeah, I didn't even post that up. You want me to show? I'll try to get it before we end here, and I'll show it.
Yeah. You guys, Chief Fry, what a knockout of a guy he is. He in person, he's the guy that caught Kohberger. He's fabulous. I got to meet him in person, and I was like a little kid meeting Marilyn Monroe. It's like, oh hi.
Well, thank you for that. I'll try to dig. I'm going to try to dig it up. If you can, send it to me again when we get off, and then I'll show it.
I can do that really easily. Okay. Hey everybody, I'm going to pop off, but I'll still be in the chat until the end. So
thank you, Cindy.
I love you guys. I love you, Ron. Ed, I love you. Thanks so much for having me on.
All right, you're welcome. See you soon. All right, there she goes, Cindy. Ed, I wanted to ask you. This is something that was. I read about today. Somebody on one of the Reddit groups, and Reddit can get crazy with some of the conspiracy theories and so forth. But somebody wrote an article in Reddit. They talked about the ladder on the side of the house. Remember that?
Yeah, the A-frame ladder that was on the outside of the house.
Right, and there was talk and conversation that some of the kids that were called, some of the college kids that were called to the house before the police arrived, got on that ladder and got onto that second floor landing in the front of the house and looked in to see what was going on, because it's alleged that the rooms were locked. Is that a possibility? Do you want me to show that picture of that ladder? Because
show it. But if that's the case, and they didn't go inside and just tried to look in that way, that would preserve the interior crime scene.
Right. If that is a scenario that's true, and again, this is all just people speculating.
It's speculation. Yeah.
If that is a good case scenario, according to Ed, because now you don't have any contamination of the crime scene. So it's a good thing. I want to remind everybody, this is what this is about. This is about the 4 victims: Xana Knodel, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, Kayla Gonzalez. This is what this story is about, and getting justice for these victims who were brutally murdered on the morning of November 13th, 2022 in Moscow, Idaho. So again, I want to talk, like, we're so in a mode of teaching everybody and giving perspectives from the detective's perspective. I always occasionally like to talk about those speculations, because it's healthy to have that conversation. It's healthy to talk about it. So I wanted to say that somebody here in the chat said, caution. Look at this. Speculation warning. Rianne the Diva.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Like I said, if it's true, we don't know. I mean, this is pure speculation.
Correct.
We have seen nothing or heard anything that suggested that in fact happened.
But it's being talked about heavily right now, and that's just the flavor of the day. Again, the 48 hours special, was interesting, but it was entertainment, and so for me to look at it, it was not a big ooh and ah. What I liked most about it is hearing about the baby, hearing about Theodora Maddie Kay. That was the best thing for me, because it was a positive, happy moment in that thing, and the rest of it, again, it was of no value to me, but I did watch it. On the members only side, I'm going to pay that $11.95 for the subscription to Paramount and watch it with you guys, and then I'm going to cancel my subscription. You get it for 7 days for free, so I'm going to pay it and then get rid of it and show it to you guys. Ed, any final thoughts before we wrap it up in regards to this?
Well, a lot of it, there's a lot of sensationalism that's going on here. There's, I think a lot of the victims' families are being taken advantage of at a very bad time in their lives, and I think they need, to close ranks, get better advisors, and protect the trial, protect the ability of the prosecutor to get justice for their kids.
Yeah. Integrity and investigation is paramount, and we're not having that happen with all of this craziness going on. Here's a picture of Cindy and Chief Fry. She was hanging out with him. It's a really great picture. She said he's a complete gentleman, and she just sent that to me. So that's the picture that she was talking about with her and Chief Fry. She's a local resident. I want to just thank you guys. This was our reaction to the University of Idaho Students 48-hour special. Ed Wallace and I, we can't thank you guys enough. And for the replay viewers and all the folks who give this video a thumbs up. If you're here now, I appreciate it. Ed and I will both appreciate if you guys can please give this video a thumbs up, share it onto your social media platform, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family about Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. Check out our merch in the merch store. There's a bunch of really great stuff in there. And thank you to Josh and Kristen in South Dakota, Josh in California, for creating all of the merch that we have up there. I greatly appreciate everybody. Our Whip, thank you for becoming a new member. And Team Brittany, thanks for being a great moderator. Joey Brooklyn, all of our friends here. We'll keep following this. There's really not a lot of new information, but this is what was the Saturday night 10 o'clock showing, and then they had. Did you see anything on the Heuermann? Was before that at 9 o'clock? I didn't see it live. I watched the taping of it, but they had a whole thing about Rex Heuermann and not a lot of new information. So
no.
Saturday night entertainment is the way I saw it. So it is what it is. All right, guys and girls, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we thank you for joining. We'll catch you on the next one. And again, It's about the victims. Here they are again on the screen, and that's how we'll end it. Ed, do you see anything in the chat? I didn't want to cut you off. No?
No, it's all good. The chat's been very interactive tonight.
You're working the switchboard there, I see. So I didn't know if you saw anything good.
You know, every time you say that, it reminds me of Lily Tom. One ringy-dingy, two ringy-dingy.
And she does
Your time is up.
All right, guys, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we wish you a good evening and have a great, great week. Make this week yours. We'll see you guys soon. Peace and love.